Good evening. The recent explosive Twitter files expose has gone on to prove that Jack Dorsey was a criminal running a criminal enterprise, and that in a just world, he and his ragtag group of chauthi fail leftists should have been behind bars for trying to change regimes, browbeat governments, ban citizens, and stifle freedom of speech. And in his interview, the anchor tells him Jack has always believed in free speech, and Jack agrees. Are you serious? Sorry, Robert Vadra. But are you really? Jack wouldn't know free speech if it was a bus and ran over him. What a monumental fraud. And in accusing the Indian government, he has shown himself as a child of Goebbels, who said, the first rule of propaganda is that you accuse others of what you are guilty of. Look, a social media platform cannot censor, ban, adjudicate, publish, alter, or editorialize. I have no issues when it remains a platform, i.e., does not control what trains come and go. But that was not the case anymore, was it? Twitter under Jack, as we have come to learn, was heavily censoring what it pleased, banning what it didn't like, and this was especially true in the case of COVID. We know for 1.5 years they were banning all sorts of things that were later on turned out to be scientific. And these are all subjective decisions based on ideology and political preferences. A US government funded organization forwarded to Twitter in 2021 when it was under Jack the handle of the Information Commissioner of India, the man who famously exposed Arundhati's 2002 lies. He subsequently complained that he was being censored or shadow banned. Look, as a free speech absolutist, I am fundamentally against governments trying to stifle free speech of a citizen either through force, or by coercion, or by threat, or by throwing a rule book at the social media company, given that the rules are draconian and against free speech to begin with. And the fact is that all governments, Congress or the BJP or any other government, have ordered blocking of Twitter accounts, and more often than not, it is a subjective decision. Back in the UPA days, remember how hundreds of right-wing accounts were blocked by the Congress, including those of journalists Shiv Arur and Kanchan Gupta. But then, it was during the heydays of press freedom and tolerance and democracy, isn't it? So people ignored it. Look, the way I see it, any social media platform operating in India should have just one rule. Anything you post here is subject to Indian laws and can be acted upon never by us, but by Indian courts, unquote. Anything more is an instrument for control and prone to bias. It is that simple. Our constitution doesn't guarantee absolute freedom of expression. It has spawned laws that are draconian and subjective and tailor-made for misuse. But in the scenario that a platform doesn't conform to absolute freedom of expression, and Twitter does not, never did, and does not still, the monopoly of bias in a democracy must rest with the constitution, not the platform. I'd much rather a judge ban me than a platform. Twitter cannot decide or editorialize. It should be just a platform. And under Jack, it wasn't. In fact, all these social media companies were platforms initially when they sucked in consumers. Once they trapped consumers, they kept on changing and adding terms and rules, and now they are a law unto themselves. 2 years ago, I was blocked by Twitter for 2 weeks. My crime? Propagating hate speech. But all I did was quote verse 3357. Those who abuse Allah and His Messenger, Allah has cursed them in this world and the hereafter and prepared for them a humiliating punishment, unquote. And Twitter must have realized the storm it would face if 1.8 billion Muslims realize that in effect Twitter blocked me because it decided that a Quranic verse was hate speech. And so they hastily apologized to me and unblocked me. Fact is, Twitter hasn't changed much even after under Elon Musk, who, even though he claims he is a free speech absolutist, has a, I'm sorry to say, warped and confused idea of what free speech is and should be. He was recently asked to bend by the draconian Turkish government and he chose to crawl. And the excuse that he gave was that he was powerless to ignore the demand of the Turkish government to ban some Twitter handles. And anyway, because he gave in and got a few handles blocked, many more Turks continue to tweet. So how many people would you sacrifice for this so-called greater good then? 20? 2,000? 20,000? Tomorrow a government can ask for Twitter to ban Elon Musk. Would Twitter agree to do this? It's a joke, and it's a never-ending joke. The truth is, we are living in a world where you believe what you see. But unfortunately, what you see is written by those who see what they believe. Objectivity has become that metallic object that must be left behind before you pass through the electronic threshold. The biases don't beep anymore. And Twitter is but an extension of the modern, deeply polarized society. And Twitter, the fact of the matter is, this isn't objectionable. Because polarization means you have a clash of ideas and there is competition among them. And so it mirrors Darwinian evolution. Science, religion, capitalism, communism, right wing, left wing, Modi, Rahul, Kangana, Swara. There's nothing wrong in professing diametrically opposite likes and dislikes and views, even if you hold entrenched views. But the problem comes when one party, one ideology, one dogma, one system controls the discourse or weighs in on it. That's when you stop being a platform and start to editorialize and play God. Because knowing Twitter, even selecting what to flag and what not to is a subjective decision. Let me give you just one example very briefly. Let us say I tweet, the earth was formed in 6 days and man created from black mud. Now science tells us that this is a total lie. So should Twitter flag it as fake and withhold my tweet? But these are verses from the Holy Book, 7:54-15:26. What if the fact checker adjudicating on my tweets was deeply religious and believed my tweets to be true? Would he disregard science and pass on my tweets? Or what if he was an atheist or a scientist like me? Would he flag my tweet and ask for it to be deleted? Bottom line is, any platform enabling a discourse cannot play God or atheist, because then it becomes an echo chamber. And if it does, that's when the diversity ends, mutations stall, mixing is prevented, and evolution shut down. The best way to kill learning is to learn only one thing.